Hello, welcome to the Philosophy, Science, and Religion podcast. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with Poffo Ortiz, Peter Moriarty, wsdtime,
Yeah!
and George Ortega. Yeah, see,
I had to get that breathing in.
Yeah, he needed to charge up his breath for that one. I waited for him to do that because WSD always does the yeah. So anyway, our topic for today is about basically what works to change the world. What changes the hearts and minds of people? What causes a revolution or a reform? There's a massive change in society. And I feel that this topic is appropriate for all of us. And here's why, guys. Because we all want to change the world, right? We all have different ways we want to change the world. We all have different goals. And sometimes some of us disagree on what we want to see happen in the world. But we all want to change the world. So this is where we all just get to say what we think and what facts or opinions that we have of what has changed the world in the past and what could change the world in the future. So does anyone want to jump in with that, or would you like me to say something?
I want to say real quick, I don't think that we
change.
What?
That song?
Sorry, I had to put that song in it.
Waiting on the world to change. I wanted to say real quick, Chandler, that I don't think that we disagree on what we want to see happen. I think we just maybe disagree on the methodology and the formula, that's all. But I think we all want the same thing. I think we all really want,
I don't know if we want the exact same as much as we do. I think we probably agree that there are certain things that are happening that we all see are going really wrong. And those they need to be turned around and stopped if we have a future of much hope, of much hope at all, basically.
Right. Well,
we agree probably on the problems, maybe more, and we agree on a lot of the solutions. But the solutions, I think, are not necessarily going to be so predictable. They've never been predictable. There are no predictable.
We agree on the problems. I think we're all aware of the problems. I think we all are generally focused in the same direction when it comes to solutions. But here's the problem. We're not the ones calling the shots. That's the problem. We're not in positions of authority. We're not in great positions of influence so that we can actually, make an impact. Go ahead.
How do people without money and great health and access to all kinds of, huge networks, media networks, how do we try to light a fire among
hey guys, I'm back.
I feel it's all about information and awareness and education through media, using media. It's books, films, documentaries, YouTube videos, and meeting people, doing some form of activism, just being involved in some way. It's communication, really. It comes down to communicating the more enlightened ideas. I think that's the successful way, because it's not just about changing all the fucked up people. It's about, raising awareness and helping to guide and inspire those who are already on the same path that are trying to work for a better world. So it's about reaching those people.
Well, what I would have to say is I don't think everybody really does want the same things. But I think those of us who are more enlightened, who have a good grasp on what the real problems are in the world we can be in agreement and can work together at trying to solve those problems and educate people once we're agreed enough to where we're working together rather than against each other.
Can I take a stab at this real quick? Look, let me go around the room for a second. Chandler, you wish everyone was celibate and vegan.
Yes, absolutely.
And atheistic on some level, basically atheistic. So anti-religious, celibate, and vegan. George, correct me if I'm wrong, but you want to invent a bliss pill to make everybody blissed out and happy, and somehow even maybe genetically tweak it, our brain structure, so we can have a higher level of morality. So we're actually capable of greater morality, and just instill happiness in people so that we can treat each other better. Do you agree? Is that right?
That's one idea. Absolutely. Yeah.
One idea. Yeah. And WSD, I'm not sure. I think you've said it many times before. You just think we need to educate people and just wake people up. Same as I, about just educating the public and stuff.
Yep, pretty much.
That correct? Yeah. I for me, I would say it's just literally about communicating information and allowing people's own hearts and minds to shift and change and evolve naturally, organically. Like raising human consciousness as they are exposed to more and more pertinent information, and the circle of compassion is naturally widened, because I believe that human beings, we're on that trajectory toward becoming more ethical and more moral and more empathetic and more compassionate. I believe that. I know we don't see it in the world right now, but
I definitely don't see it.
No, but I mean, holistically, like overall, like in an overarching sense, we are becoming more evolved. All life, I believe, evolves toward greater levels of complexity and cohesion and self-awareness. So along with that comes greater levels of morality and ethics. So it's just a matter of facilitating that change and the most effective ways of doing that. Figuring out what's the most effective way. I mean, Jacques Fresco just passed away, and he was a great.
Yeah.
Just a great leader, a great light when it came to that. I wish I'd been on you guys' last show, because you talked about him a lot. But yeah, like he represented something. He was a symbol for that. I just hope that his legacy is carried on by Roxanne and anybody else, because he really set a great standard for what could be, and how much more efficient and sane our society could be, as opposed to what it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. But yeah, see, like I still, I'm not sure how much people agree on what they want. Like now, Poffo, you have an excellent grasp on what all of us want the world to be like. You know us well enough to know what we want, and yet I think there's. I
skipped Peter, by the way. It's a little more complex with Peter. I don't know if I could summarize it in one sentence. But
Peter.
I do know what he wants. I do know that might take a little bit longer to explain that, but he could explain it for you better than I could.
Yeah, let's let Peter explain what he wants.
Is that where? Okay, well, you guys kind of left me to come up with it myself. I was sort of interested in Poffo's take on it.
I could say it. No, I just don't want you to get mad at me because that I'm misrepresenting you. So I could say it. I believe Peter wants sustainability. He wants ecological and environmental equilibrium and balance. And as far as human beings and human societies, just connecting with sort of our divine legacy as biological organisms, that like really finding our place as human beings and really embracing what it means to be human and uniting and working together in cooperation and cohesion, as opposed to in competition and with all of the chaos and the violence and but I think he believes in ultimate freedom for the individual, that there should never be any imposed dogmatic a system of what's the word of homogeny that people are forced into. I think he's very much a libertarian in some ways, but he has very lofty visions about what his meta religion could become and how it could sort of unite people and free humanity and help us to evolve and help us to treat each other and the planet with more love and respect. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a good summary?
That's very, I thought, generous and good. Maybe just to the point of the question, I kind of think that we need to somehow get our stories right between what our ancestors represented and what science fiction stories that we choose for the future. So I'm not about sticking to, going back to a golden age, but I am about maintaining those things that any of us should be proud of our heritage and not losing sight of all of the great knowledge that our culture had for us. But, I think there's so many things handed down to us that we're getting the wrong things handed to us by the people who are the cultural gatekeepers. And we have to keep on focusing and refocusing on the great the minds of the past who have been villainized throughout the past, and they try to, people who are in charge now try to change history and make people who really spoke the truth, turn them into marginal nutcases, and then take other people who actually, it's a lot of, in other words, we don't want to throw away everything of the past. We want to keep the good things and amplify those, and we don't want to just jump into the future with no, with blinders on and with no awareness of what we're getting into. But
I should have mentioned it. I should have mentioned that he holds culture in high regard. He holds culture in very high regard, and I actually don't. I could give a shit about culture because I think culture is mostly limiting because they're usually confined with these Abrahamic belief systems and very archaic ways of thinking and viewing the world.
Literature and poetry and philosophy.
Yeah.
Connected.
Yeah, you're drawing out the best, the most ideal examples of culture. When I say culture, I mean religious culture, racial cultures that revolve around superstition, supernaturalism, traditions of violence and discrimination towards others. That's what I could completely do away with, and I could care less for.
That's not all of culture. So many of the things about culture are the things we must preserve, or we will go into an oblivion where we don't know who we are. That's what happened in Idiocracy. That's what happens in in WALL-E.
That's like the fourth time I've heard that movie reference. I have to see it. Chandler always mentioned it to me.
Oh yeah, you have got to see it, man. I highly recommend that to all our listeners. You got to see it.
Everybody's seen it but me.
Yeah.
Probably the most pertinent movie of our time, to be perfectly honest.
Most pertinent, you said?
Pertinent. Yeah. To use a word that nobody in that world would ever understand.
I was gonna say, I think on a certain level, Peter may romanticize the past and culture a little bit more than I do. I'm much more of a realist. I feel like I'm much more practical in terms of what applies to modern life, everyday life, and what is sort of applicable. But I don't want to spend too much time on our differences. I do agree that we need better stories and better role models. We definitely need better role models. We need role models, period. We need heroes, man, like true heroes. The worst people, the best people are vilified, and the worst people are propped up as as something great. I mean, look at our president right now. Look at that. That's just a reflection of the idiocy and the ignorance and
I agree.
Which
blinders
I
people
still have absolutely no idea. How is it that nobody criticizes this motherfucker?
What? WSC? How anybody what?
Doesn't criticize this dude.
Oh, well, like half the country is criticizing him, and then the other half is defending him. That's the problem. Is they're just believing what's mainstream media.
I'm talking about the mainstream media. I ain't talking about
the mainstream media is spin and propaganda. I don't watch the news, man. I don't take anything that's all just scripted. It's all scripted, and there's all ulterior motives and hidden agendas going on there. So don't even watch the news, man. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I don't watch it.
To me, Trumpty Dumpty is really the biggest disgrace that could ever happen.
What?
He's a reflection of the ignorance of the disparity between those who are well informed, those who are knowledgeable, and those who are living in a fantasy world.
One thing.
My dad voted for him.
One thing the Trump phenomenon does demonstrate is that the completely unexpected can happen. So in terms of like this revolution to change the paradigm of what's going on, if Trump can get elected, we could create a new government. We could create a new world.
But George, he got elected because he was a businessman, a millionaire. We're living in a monetary system. He bought his way in. It's because of money. That's not surprising. It's because
no, Poffo. My point is that half the country voted for him after he said, like, punch this guy. I'll pay your legal fees. He made fun of disabled people. He was like, who would have thought that this guy could get elected? So if this guy can get elected, anything's possible.
Yeah, I got the point, but I'm saying that it's because we're based in a monetary system right now. So basically, you have a corrupt businessman who can become the leader of the free world, supposedly.
So what I'm saying is that, that this monetary system that exists now doesn't have to. I mean, like it could shift overnight.
It could shift. It's not going to shift until we have an alternative, a replacement.
Well,
that's what we're gonna.
Is a ray of hope, honestly. To be perfectly.
What, Peter?
I think Trump is a ray of hope. If you know how to look. I can explain.
Let's make a bumper sticker with like light beams shining out of his face and rainbows coming out of his ass.
I mean, one of the things that
like that picture of Obama riding the unicorn.
I love that.
Of course, Chandler has that. He probably has that saved on his desktop because it's a unicorn.
Peter, what were you saying?
Well, okay, I could explain that. There is a reasonable explanation. It's not that I think that Trump is a good leader. I think that the ray of hope is that he's such a terrible leader. It's showing exactly the hand of the wealthy, on not just wealthy. I don't want to say wealthy because that's not the problem. It's the elites, or what we call a deep state, or the people who hold real reins of power, is that there's two sides to it. A, they don't have many good choices as to who work their agenda or represent it. They don't have good choices, and Trump isn't even a good choice. He's comparable. But it's also that they're willing to show their hand because they've actually they're overreaching their grasp in some ways. And Trump is an example of how it is that they're at a loss for something that's going to actually smooth things over, so the world is going to be satisfied. And that's really what the job of the president is for. It's not to solve problems. The job is to make us all feel like we're getting things done, and he's an eloquent guy. And that's why I think that Obama was the ultimate camouflage that anybody's ever had. And you got a lot of worse shit done under Obama that everybody seemed to be okay with.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Peter. It's the same agenda.
Everything that he does is like looked at under a microscope. And he's a failure. And that's the failure of the leadership class, of the ownership class. And that's why it's a ray of hope.
They're all corrupt, and it's just the public opinion that actually is different.
Well, it's not even public. The public opinion is held together by the media that doesn't even like Trump either, but they know that they can't reveal the truth, that we're in chaos. There's no good leader. Bernie Sanders was supposed to be the good leader. You know what? I was a big Bernie Sanders supporter, and I don't trust that guy at all either anymore. So there's no good leader.
I think another advantage, another like bright side of this like Trump cloud is that before Trump, we didn't understand the extent of the problem. Now we clearly, people who weren't following politics that much and thought, oh, everything's all right, now their world has been turned upside down. And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I did. I mean, I always did, but I know what you mean, George. The majority, had no clue. Yeah, it's like he represents, a big ugly turd, and it's like that level of shit was always there. And now we have a perfect reflection of it, a perfect embodiment of it. Yeah, to wake people up and let them see that, that America isn't so great. I believe America ceased to exist a long time ago. We live in an oligarchy. It's an empire with vested interests.
I don't
corporations.
Me honestly, this is my untrustworthy nature. I can see why. Well, Obama, I can see why people don't trust him. To be honest, I trust him. That's one of the reasons why I voted back in 2012. It just with these people, it just comes to me. It just if I feel like both of them are lesser of two evils, I ain't gonna vote for either of them. That's just me.
Yeah, I remember George was saying we need to go with Hillary, but I was like, they're all scum.
Yeah,
the very first episode I did with you guys, I said I don't support politics at all. I think it's all garbage. It's all.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way.
All right, guys. So if we agree that the solution doesn't involve politics or needs something more, so what is that more? I mean, like Poffo, you alluded to a leader, but it's not just about a leader or a group of leaders. It's about what the leaders are going to say.
Did I? I said role models. We need better heroes. We need like those to look up to.
Role model.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Not necessarily one, but even a group of people, but people who have the best interest, the interest of the people, who really have the interest of the people in mind, and who aren't going to be swayed by the corruption of financial corruption, and are sticking to their values and care about the earth, care about the planet, care about biological organisms, care about the environment. And I don't think anyone like that has ever existed in a position of power that they could do anything. I have a list of what I call the League of Humanity, of 50 of the greatest people who are alive today who could make a difference if they were in positions of leadership. And that's the problem, is they're all specialized. They're scientists, doctors, physicists, atheists, activists, biologists. And the problem is they're not all united, and they're not no one. Let's see. Different groups are listening to them, and they're making a difference, in their own specialized fields. But they're not running the country. They're not actually, helping, in a broader sense. That's the problem.
All right. So are we?
They're influencing the public.
Right. Are we also agreed that these people cannot get into the political system the way it is now? So it's not just that they have to exist, but it seems there has to be something else
they
to
can't
either get them into the political system or something else.
No, they shouldn't. They can't and they shouldn't because it won't work.
All right. So then,
yeah.
When you say, go ahead, Peter.
Well, I mean, Peter? I think that absolutely we're right now. We are at the point where I think that the Green Party they have failed in taking the reins of what could have been a great opportunity for them in the last election. I know they tried. I think there's issues with both the leadership and the network itself. But I do think that as soon as it's possible, I know there's all kinds of pressure coming from the grassroots to make the Green Party something viable. I know that's largely what was supporting Bernie Sanders' campaign. There's all kinds of desire out there, I think, to come together around environmental ideas, which are basically, it is part of the problem of the political system because they completely take these issues off the table. During the elections, they wouldn't let anybody talk about climate change. They wouldn't let anybody talk about so many of the issues like fracking and GMO and all these other things, which, whether you're on one side or the other of
the important shit.
They don't get debated.
Yeah, and Peter, when you say they, it's like the money. It's like the rich people who control the media, who control the country.
Right.
So then the problem becomes, what do we do about that?
Do away with the monetary system. As long as you're working through a monetary system, the good people will never be influential because you can always buy.
But how do you do that?
Buy your way in.
Yeah, that's my question. How do we do it?
No,
exactly.
You make the transition. You start with a universal basic income. You use different forms of currency, and you gradually transition to a
Poffo,
if the
control of the political.
What?
If the rich are in control, the rich didn't even allow us to talk about climate change in this election. How are they going to allow this transformation that you're describing?
The public has to do it. There have to be sustainable off-grid communities who are just doing it on their own without completely autonomous. That's the point. We don't even involve politics. We don't even go there. Like you just create communities. You start creating groups, small communities. Go ahead, Peter.
There are means of connecting with people. Say, for example, just creating networks and cooperatives through Facebook and other online methods of people organizing. And I think that's a good way. I think it's, I'm somebody who believes in every way possible. I don't believe it's this or this or this. It's this and this and
whatever
this.
works. Yeah.
As many ones of these.
Is that WSD? Holy shit! WSD's got his camera on. What's up, man?
Yep. Hey, what's up?
Hey, there you are, WSD.
I'm seeing his face for the first time.
Yeah, I've only seen him like maybe two or three times at most, including this. Yeah, but yeah, like about the other thing, the monetary system. See, I hate to sound pessimistic because we're trying to have hope here and all that, I know, but personally, I'm not so sure how you get the public at large to do what's necessary in order for such a big change to happen.
Emma, let me respond to that. Did you not see that all of the real funding of the last election came from small donors, and even a lot of the smaller donors were supporting Trump? In other words, so many masses of people, they may not be rich, but they're willing to put a little bit of money, and when they see somebody who actually stands for ideas that are legitimate, and I think that Sanders' ideas were largely legitimate. He largely was also talking campaign rhetoric, but I think people can see that the rest of the world has better options than America, and America is holding back the rest of the world by not getting on board some of these options.
Wait, what are we talking about? The rest of the world has what options that America is resistant to?
The rest of the world, I'm saying the developed world. When I'm talking about like universal health care options for people who have low income.
For sure. Like in Canada and the Netherlands and stuff. Yeah.
State university tuition,
Right.
any other social contract and so forth. I mean, basically, obviously, not the entire world has those things, but America is lagging behind, and we're holding the rest of the world behind. And the people want it. I really think that the cracks are showing that we are at the point where, Trump is. We elected Trump because he's actually what we were thinking he was going to create a revolution, and that was a joke.
No, they elected Trump. I didn't elect that motherfucker.
People elected him because he was so different than a politician, and they were just tired of the political correctness.
Oh no! I hear her speak.
Change.
I knew he was full of shit. I knew he was full of shit.
When
I heard him talk, I knew he was full of shit.
Yeah,
I have to everybody else.
Yeah, this may be kind of relevant, but I actually happen to know 2 Trump supporters. One of them one who works at the same grocery store as I do, and my dentist. This
goes back to what we talked about on one episode. I think on the vegan podcast we did, Chandler, that like people are only capable of making good decisions based on the information that they've received. And we're all operating from different sets of information, what we've been exposed to. So you just have, it's not that you disagree with that person. It's that what you've learned and the bits of information you've received are over here, and they are actually in conflict with the information that other person has received. So what you really got to do is get to the bottom of the truth of what actually exists in reality, because it's like two different storylines, and our stories conflict. That's really what the issue is.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Poffo. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's an important point. That's why our work about the free will myth is so important. The very, very fact that we are not at all, we're not at all responsible for who we vote for. And that's
products of our environment. We're products of our environment and what we've been exposed to. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. The electoral college.
We are being by the media to believe a certain set of things, and it is true that most people can't be trusted to think for themselves because they think they're independent thinkers, but they're actually really being pawns for their own political party. So yeah, that's true. But really, once there's I guess it's Alexander Solzhenitsyn is I think his name, and he says that speaking one word of the truth will cancel out a million, lies or something of this nature. And I do think that using truth, using science, those are the only methods we have to fight against this massive network of lies.
Misinformation, cultural myths.
You can't combat it unless you have another system that is independent. That, in any case, I do think that science, we were talking about like what kinds of things. I do think that a revolution that says, that science is what's going to deny the system, and that science is what's going to allow us to actually overcome some of these science.
I just posted a video with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's saying that. He's like, it doesn't matter. That's the great thing about science. It's true whether you believe in it or not. And like people just need to wake up. And when you're forming policy based on, on bad science, on people who are scientifically illiterate, then you've got a serious problem. People are living in a dream world. I'd like to switch gears for a minute here, if we could, and just talk about.
I finish up a statement about.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
And you said that you have a whole list of your League of what was this?
Humanity. League of Humanity.
Okay, so and that they don't agree sufficiently on a lot of things, and I do think that really one of the most important things that we have to figure out, and one of the things that biotheism, biosophy is focused on, is figuring out within the scientific community itself what is proper and good and appropriate science and what is bad science, and how do we within the community of the scientific, of scientific and responsible and supposedly enlightened people, what values do we share as a community? And I don't think that that's ever been fully established. And I don't think that I think Dawkins would be a good person to speak about it, but I don't think he's like, he doesn't represent our best angels and neither does Christopher Hitchens.
Christopher Hitchens is gone. He's not on the list because he's dead. But I want to say I agree with you. I agree with you, Peter. But at the same time, no, it's not that they don't necessarily. It's not that they just necessarily disagree. It's that they're all working in different avenues, in different specialized fields. And I'm looking at the holistic picture as a pantheist, seeing how all these things converge because they involve biology, they involve logic and reason and sustainability. So it's not that they necessarily disagree. It's that they've never all come together like the League of Justice, like the superheroes. Like we need a League of Justice, man. Like the European Union or what? It's supposed to be that, but it's not.
Danny Dennett on your list and Christopher Hitchens. I find both of those guys to be. They're the problem. They're not.
Hitchens isn't on my list. I just told you. It's only living people. It's only people who are currently alive. But Dennett's on there because he's a great philosopher and he's done a lot of work in trying to dispel superstition and help promote critical thinking.
Okay, well, I can agree with that.
Except for free will.
Yeah, he's totally wrong on that one, but
sure, he's wrong about that. Sam Harris is on there for obvious reasons.
And let me tell you something. Let me tell you, if everybody ceased to believe in free will, that would be world changing. That could set off whatever else needs to happen because so much of the inequality in the world is because the rich say, well, I deserve it. And the poor, because of their failings, don't deserve it.
And this is the direction I wanted to go, actually, George. I was trying to say there needs to be a new mentality, a new philosophy that's instilled and cultivated. And so from your angle, you're saying that, abolish the free will myth. I'm saying promote the pantheistic awareness of life. And that changes everything as well. And that's what I wanted to talk about was, okay, forget politics, forget doing some kind of overt physical tangible revolution, but like literally educate and create communities where this new mentality, this new way of thinking exists, and it can be propagated and proliferated from there, like instilling a higher set of values or getting people together who maintain these biocentric values, and then letting that information and knowledge and wisdom spread that way, like doing it through the public, through philosophy, and almost like instituting a new religion, a new way of looking at the world, a new way of perceiving reality.
Giving ourselves some sort of sense that ecology is spiritual, I think that's the number one bridge we made.
I agree. Hey, Peter, talk a little bit louder because you're really low. Your audio is really low. If you can talk more into the mic, it would help. I probably sound louder than everybody, but
I was just saying that if I wasn't easily heard, that spiritual ecology, which does not mean that could be atheistic. It's just merely saying that we see ecology as the foundation of our biology, and our biology is the foundation of our mentality, and that has to be the foundation of our ontology. How do you get around the fact that a healthy brain and a healthy intellect can't survive without a healthy body and a healthy earth?
And this is where Peter and I absolutely 100% agree. We are 100%, congruent on that point right there. That's why we're the bios. Biopan, biotheism.
There's a school of thinking.
Biotheists.
There's a number of different people who have posited a means of bringing together all the fields of science. One of them would be Schrodinger himself. We have some of the greatest, I think, scientists who have ever existed, who discuss a means of bringing together the sciences into a more into a state of being more harmonious together through biology as one of the foundations. Robert Lanza, Albert Einstein. I mean, the list would go on, and I could just.
I don't agree with Robert Lanza's biocentrism. I think it's a little left field, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, but
he's
like
actually a very accomplished scientist, and he decided to get back off of the biocentrism because to focus more on his actual medicine.
Yeah. As far as a scientist goes, and he's a what is he? He's a physicist, right? As far as his scientific work goes, yeah, I think he's
involved, I believe.
But his theories are just like a form of solipsism, really. Will Tuttle, is author, artist, composer, has made these efforts for years to talk about the spiritual aspect of veganism and the spiritual connotations of the idea of taking in death and torture and pain into our bodies, and that basically, as Chandler said, the other podcasts, you are what you eat, and that we are reaping what we sow, because of the violence and the discrimination and the oppression and the cruelty and the pain we're inflicting on other life forms. This is exactly what we see in human societies. If you can treat another life form as inferior and exploit and manipulate them, well, that bleeds over into human societies, a human relationship when it comes to sexism and bigotry and racism and discrimination and homophobia and misogyny. So there are people who are trying to bridge the gap, and like me, trying to combine pantheism and veganism and atheism. Who are seeing this, but we're just not as influential. What?
I said I'd like to respond if I could, unless anybody else has a question or something. I don't know. Basically, it's probably the reputation has hopefully possibly gotten around that Poffo and I disagree on the veganism issue, which we don't exactly disagree. I agree with him that diet is so important, and that's one of the reasons why I actually really like veganism as a movement. It's one of the reasons I like veganism. There are other reasons I dislike it. However, the fact that veganism focuses on the celebration of eating in a way that is a celebration of life without all of the guilt, that's what eating needs to really be. And, eating is one of our closest connections to the earth and our bodies and everything. And the way it has to do with how we think, it is who we are. And I agree with Poffo in every way.
It provides us all the energy for our brains to function. It provides us the life. We're taking in life so that we can live.
Guys, we're about 5-10 years away from a world-changing paradigm regarding veganism, and that's that within 5-10 years they're going to be able to culture meat like beef that'll taste identical to the beef from cows, and they'll be able to sell it. They'll be able to sell it at this. Hold on, Peter. They'll be able to sell it at the same price. So in other words,
I don't understand how that works.
What we're saying,
it's like cloning.
People aren't going to have to. People aren't going to have to become vegan. Thank goodness, because they culture that there's no pain involved. There may be there might be it's through stem cells.
Well,
so this whole thing might just be solved through technology.
Well, I do have one thing to respond to with that, George. Now, I agree. The synthetic meat, although of course I have no need for it because I'll eat plants the rest of my life, the synthetic meat does solve the problem of meat anyway, because at least they won't be killing animals for the meat. But it doesn't solve all the killing that takes place by the dairy and the egg and the honey industries. So it was not the fix-all solution.
It's a great point, yeah, because veganism is much broader than just that. And just real quick, I'll just say I support it. But the livestock industry
is like 99% of it. That's the point. I mean, the dairy. I imagine they could probably do the same thing with dairy. They
can actually do the same thing with everything.
Psychology of meat eating personally. You know what I think is? I think that if it's not a living creature that you feel like you're eating, nobody's going to want to eat printed meat. They would rather just eat real food.
George,
about making
Peter,
food in
Peter,
the lab.
I think that's your psychology.
You gotta realize people pay for water.
We're all talking here.
People pay for water, so don't underestimate how how people can be molded to do things, for whatever reason.
I love plant-based jerky. I eat jerky all the time, and it's delicious. And I don't care that it's it's soy and protein.
Eat real animals, kill real animals. Don't make fake animals and eat fake.
Let me say something real quick. Peter is very much against sort of transhumanism and this idea of mucking with playing God and messing with genetics and DNA and things like that. And he's much more he wants things to stay natural, so to speak.
See, the problem with the current paradigm is that livestock is responsible for 15-20% of the greenhouse gases. So we're not just talking compassion; we're talking like civilization.
Well, I agree with that. I'm a vegetarian myself, and I'm not against the idea of stopping.
Let's move forward, so we're not like debating. But I get your point, George, that you're saying that technology itself might save us from this. But I say that is good for those who just cannot give up their addiction to meat, and they have to have it in some way. It's obviously using less animals. It's still using an animal though, so on principle, it's still avoiding the most obvious answer is to just be plant based. So I agree with Chandler.
Okay. Now I want to ask Peter something. One more thing before we move on. Peter, are you saying that you actually prefer for people to raise animals and then kill them instead of having synthetic meat?
Absolutely, yes. But I didn't say that I want them to treat the animals badly. I'm not saying that we should not be vegetarians. I don't eat pork. I don't think that people should be eating. We don't eat rhinoceroses, or some people don't. We shouldn't be. We don't, except for in China, they eat a lot of whatever. But what I'm saying is that basically we already don't eat most animals. But I don't think that it is right to be taking something that is, in other words, something so important to human life, which is eating, and totally changing it in radical ways away from what it is that we have only.
Your argument is based on a romanticized idea of eating rather than a practical solution to the environmental problems and the ethical problem of animal agriculture.
Less than 100 years ago, the way that the whole world ate food was 100% different from the way that most people eat it now. We're eating.
I agree.
Why do you think these rats in the wild don't necessarily get covered with tumors? When you keep them as domesticated animals, feeding them salt.
Peter believes in humanely raised and humanely slaughtered. If you can understand that, complete oxymoron.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, and that's the thing why I have a hard time understanding this, Peter, because I don't want people to kill me, even if they treat me well. That's the thing. So.
Treat you well for 10 years, but at the end of it, we'll still slit your throat, so that makes it okay.
So, Peter, are you okay as long as we treat you nicely in this podcast if tomorrow we slaughter you and eat you for breakfast?
Well, I think that's a more spurious argument than anybody who says that plants themselves have feelings and shouldn't just be considered to be, fodder for everybody's diet.
I really got to make this point because we brought Peter on, and Peter and I have this disagreement. So let me try to make this really salient point very calmly. Peter, this is the whole point, right? Hold on, let me word this right so it comes out right. This is the whole point. If it's unnecessary, and we've evolved to the point where we can live and thrive on a plant-based diet, we're not Native Americans, we're not the Inuit Eskimos. We're not cavemen. They're the vegetation, fruits and vegetation, and because of the Industrial Revolution, because of access to, so much, so many plant-based options, we don't have to kill, we don't have to slaughter animals. To go backwards just for this romanticized idea, it doesn't make any sense. That if we don't have to, then it actually becomes unethical to continue. I'm trying to say we're more evolved than that. You're hearkening to a more primitive state of human evolution, and I'm saying we've moved beyond that, and we can continue moving beyond that.
Another way of seeing this is, for example, it's almost like you're advocating that we shouldn't be using electricity or light or heat or cars or medicine. Since this stuff is so unnatural, so artificial, we should live life the way human beings have lived it for hundreds of thousands of years. But we have evolved, and a lot of this evolution has been beneficial to our species.
Everybody here who is not a vegan?
And I mean ethical evolution as well. That's the main point. Go ahead, what?
I'd be happy to explain it if you want me to, but no, I disagree.
but I don't know if I've really expressed this point. I'm trying to say that where we are right now, like what you're talking about, it's almost like an antiquated argument, because you're saying that, yeah, factory farming is wrong. Everybody I do activism every fucking day. I hear them say, well, I don't agree with factory farming, but I believe in humanely raised meat, and I go hunt and I procure the meat, and they die quick and whatever, but they don't have to die. That's the point. We don't have to kill them. Animals are food for other animals. They don't have to be food for humans. That's the point. Even WSD knows this. He understands this, and he's not vegan.
Well, the thing is that what it is that has to die or doesn't have to die for you is one thing that's true for you, but that's not true for everybody. But that's not even what I'm saying. You guys, this is my problem, that every time I get into these discussions, it's really a question of me defending myself against false innuendos about what I believe, which I don't believe in anything like cruelty. I believe that the animals, first of all, I believe in a massive reduction in the meat intake overall. I don't believe in eating cows, but I can't change the world. That's how it is.
Is taking someone's life cruel or benevolent? Is that a cruel or benevolent act? Take someone's life. What? I can't hear you. You got to speak up. You got to talk into the mic, Peter.
Treat animals well and
yeah, Peter, you got to talk much louder. You're very soft. Try to raise the level of your mic.
Something's wrong with my mic, I guess. Can you?
Okay, so
yeah,
when you talk into it, it's better. So is killing someone, is taking someone's life unnecessarily, is that a cruel or a benevolent act?
This is the beginning of where I don't even want to have this discussion, because you're saying killing someone or you're saying killing a cow, and I do not equate.
Whoa! Hold on. Cows are persons. Every sentient life form that has a brain, that has a mind and emotions, and has thoughts and feelings and can suffer, they are individuals. They are persons. You don't view animals as persons, other non-human animals?
No. Okay. First of all, the fact is that if you look at how cheap the value of life is, of human life, I think that we have cheapened the value of human life across the scale, and I do think that that's a problem. And I do think that what we do in terms of how we treat animals and what we consider, the value of an animal life is an abomination. So let's just start with the fact that I'm coming from a place where I can get more passionate to speak out about this subject as much as anybody, and it isn't about whether or not I'm cold or cruel-hearted because I think that death is something that is a necessary part of nature. It's because I have lived in nature. I have worked on farms. I know that death and having blood up to my arms, I know that's part of working in these kinds of situations. I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not saying people should be cruel. I'm saying that animals are a part of the ecology, and so are plants. And the way that things work best is in a balance. But in terms of death, no person, no living animal, once they're dead, is upset with death. Death is not a bad or scary thing. It's life.
Okay, Peter. Now, Peter, why haven't you killed yourself? Look, listen. What?
Controversial, so everybody wants to jump in.
Now, hold on. Yeah. Why haven't you killed yourself, Peter? Why haven't you?
What would that's? I'm not going to answer that question. That's not.
I don't know. Maybe he's trying to make the point of the value of life, that you value your own life, right, Chandler?
Yeah. Yes.
Why
we intrinsically value our own.
Life. I value life more than you. I started a religion called biotheism about worshiping the value of life.
Yeah, and killing it, right?
Hold on, Chandler. I don't want to gang up on Peter. I don't want him to feel like he has to defend himself.
I celebrate death as a sacrament. And I don't think that death is anything like what you think it is. Okay.
Let's just take it down a notch.
Well, I think he's got a point. I mean, in other words, I think what Peter's trying to say, in other words, the best we can hope for is, let's say as a human being, 80, 90, 100 years, and we're dead for billions of years. So it doesn't really matter in a certain sense.
George,
he's right about that.
But there's something that's missing here. I mean, it is the value of life, the value of each individual life to express themselves and grow and thrive themselves. That I keep going back to the same point. You're not answering nothing you said is invalid, Peter. I'm listening to you, but you're not answering my question.
Yeah,
is it a cruel or benevolent act to take someone's life unnecessarily?
Let me explain something. When you're
doing, still not going to answer my question.
That has to do with agriculture. How many things under the soil are dying? How many?
Are we
things
talking about bugs and
spread?
bacteria? Just by our sheer scale and size, we will accidentally end up killing insects and things. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking
We want
about
sentient
doing something.
beings.
What they're there?
Sentient
Yeah,
beings.
you would hate me. You would hate me because
Yeah, no, WSD doesn't like bugs.
yeah.
Remember,
Because
there's a
like
difference
6
between
years
killing.
ago, I had those little bastards invade my house, and there was hard shit to get rid of.
There's a difference between killing for self-defense and killing for tradition or taste or convenience.
The bastards needed to go. They had to go home and they had to get the fuck out of here.
Well, it's self-defense. I mean, if it's self-defense, it's completely understandable. But that's not why we kill chickens and cows and sheep and turkeys and pigs and lamb. That's not why we kill them. We don't kill them to protect our own person, our own body. We do it for completely unnecessary and
I'm saying
Yeah.
Go ahead, Peter.
And there is the way that we are good stewards, and that we do not try to work against nature and put our systems on top of nature to improve them. That we work with the way that things actually work.
But that's what always ends up happening when we view other non-human animals as inferior. When we view any other life form as inferior and not possessing of their own intrinsic value, we always end up manipulating and exploiting them. That's the problem. So you want to avoid factory farming, get to the root cause of it. The heart of it is speciesism, is that we don't value life across the board. We need to just honor and value life itself. You used to talk about worshiping life. I don't believe we should worship anything, but I believe we should respect and honor the life principle that exists in all things, that allows everything to function and grow and evolve
What he said.
and heal and reproduce. Go ahead.
Pigs are not the right species to eat, and horses are not the right species to eat, and monkeys are not the right species to eat, and neither are.
Wait. There's a right and a wrong species for humans to
Wait a
consume?
minute. I thought all life was sacred.
Peter, finish your sentence. You're saying there's a right and a wrong species for us to exploit?
I don't have. I'm not going to explain this.
I'm trying to give you a platform to speak, but I can barely hear you.
I'm trying to say that every swallow
That's
that
better.
we make, we kill things.
Wait. Okay, so because you make this false equivalence example of saying because we accidentally kill bacteria and microorganisms, then we should go ahead and keep slaughtering and killing pigs who have the intelligence level of a 3-year-old, and we should go ahead and keep consuming animal products. which are
Peter,
causing cancer.
another
According to your logic, I should kill
another
those
version
people.
of your argument. Another version of your argument, Peter, is it's human nature, for human beings to kill each other. So we shouldn't have any laws. We shouldn't prevent that. We shouldn't try to prevent that. Let us all kill each other.
There is a difference between human consciousness and human culture and society, and this is where you're not getting. It seems to me something that is second grade. Is that basically we have a huge investment as human beings in the future, in our children, in the life of our entire family. Now, I'm not saying animals don't, but I'm saying that their lives are different in terms of the categories of their value. And does that mean that I think that we should trample on them? No. Does that mean that I think that we shouldn't treat and give rights to every animal that has, higher sentience than a gerbil? No, it doesn't, because I do believe in animal rights for things that are smarter than gerbils. But I'm not saying that every animal, every bug, every scorpion, every worm, every bacteria.
Peter, human beings are actually the most destructive species on the planet. We are not valuable to this planet at all. We're valuable to each other, but actually the bees and many other life forms of plankton and algae are more valuable to the ecosystem. So,
Yep, I agree. Yeah. We fucked this planet up horribly.
Okay, now here's an interesting thing. Okay, let's talk about bugs for a second. Okay, let's see. Now let's say there's a bug on the sidewalk. It's not bothering me at all. That bug is not bothering me. Therefore,
I'll keep it moving.
Yeah.
I'll keep it moving.
Yeah.
I'll keep it moving. Don't fuck with me.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this bug on the
Don't be a fucking
sidewalk.
bed bug in my fucking house again.
Okay.
Killed the bastard 6 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. WSD, calm down. Okay. So there's this bug on the sidewalk. It is not bothering me. It's not bothering me at all because it's not in my house or apartment or anything. It's not bothering me, so I'm not going to bother it. And I don't need to eat bugs. I do not need to eat bugs. I get all my nutrition from plants and don't need to eat bugs.
I just wanted to make that point. Yeah, that we already have food. You don't need to eat it because you actually already have food. Yeah. And you don't need to kill it for self-defense because it's no threat to you.
What if you were hungry?
Well, you could eat grass.
And you eat whatever.
I would try to find some fruit somewhere.
You maintain your ethical and moral value system, and you eat the vegetation that those bugs are probably eating.
Yeah, like
if there's life forms, if there's organisms around for you to eat, then that means that there is vegetation for them to eat. And all you have to do is skip the middleman and eat the vegetation. That's where you actually get your protein from. That's where you get all your vitamins and minerals and nutrients. So it's unnecessary. That's the whole point. It's not. I don't think you're getting that, Peter. That's unnecessary in this modern culture. And we're trying to promote a movement in North America, in Western culture. So I'm not applying this to the entire world, to the global, but it's something that we can start in the U.S. and it can spread and grow that respect and appreciating and honoring the sanctity of life.
Yeah,
and all life, not the selective compassion that humans have.
Yeah, yes,
but,
what I want to echo here in response to what Poffo said is, we don't even need to get into a debate about whether human lives are more important than other animals or not. It doesn't matter about the intelligence, their capacity to suffer, what value they have in your philosophy. None of that matters, because the fact is we don't need to eat those animals. We don't need to eat those animals. We don't need to cause them the suffering.
There's many people in the world who do need that because their families are starving.
But I'm not talking about. But the vegan movement is primarily geared towards first world countries, Peter. Okay, like you're taking the blanket, putting it on a universal scale. Hopefully, it'll evolve to that level. But right now, our focus is on people in the U.S., people in the West.
Yeah.
I sent you a video today, or what was it? Yeah, it was a video about Ziggy Marley, and it was about divisiveness. And how
talking to the mic, man. Talk a little louder if you can.
I sent a video to you about Ziggy Marley and how we're dividing each other. And to me, I think that dividing each other is the biggest problem. And here's what I think why
dividing.
Because the insect on the sidewalk is a good point to bring up. You know what? We could all learn the lesson that a child learns when a parent says, "Don't step on that, Jimmy. Don't crush that caterpillar. He didn't do anything to you." We could all learn that lesson. Absolutely.
That's the point. That's the message of veganism. It's compassion. It's ahimsa.
I don't want to. Let me finish my statement, please. Is that I don't want to eat meat because I don't feel it's the right thing, and maybe I'm going to grow up to care more about animals, and that's great. And all of those things are great. And that's what I support about veganism. But what I don't support about veganism is I don't give a shit about that bug on the fucking sidewalk, because I do care about it enough. I already went through that process of caring about it enough. But I'm not going to get my mind stuck about that argument.
I think you're missing the fundamental premise of what veganism is, though. It's we're trying to instill a mentality, a certain awareness.
This is why nobody thinks I make sense, is because I can't finish the statement.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
I'm saying that basically I don't care about the bug on the sidewalk when all of the real problems that are going on in slaughterhouses aren't being addressed and taken on. You know what? Take them on. Burn them down. Break them down. Stop
these. It's the same problem, though.
Go out and turn it into a war. But you know what? Stop talking to me about bugs and shrimp and bees, because that's
bees are important, but it's the same problem. It's just a hypothetical. It's just we're just making a philosophical statement saying that life,
you
life
tear
itself.
down slaughterhouses. You say a slaughterhouse. What will be your solution after that?
Well, I mean, I'm saying if you want to be
turn them into
stopping meat, do something serious.
Actually, a lot of dairy farmers are turning to plant-based to become plant-based milk production.
Talk plant-based milk production. The most egregious crimes of the meat industry, and stop those before you start getting on to the case.
Okay, can we take it down a notch, Peter? Because you're clearly upset. Can you just relax for a second? Listen to what I'm trying to say, right? Just listen. Can you? Hello. I'm letting you talk, but I'm also trying to interject something. I think you're missing the fundamental point. This is a philosophy. It's a philosophy that honors and respects life in general, so that we're trying to instill that philosophy so that those slaughterhouses will no longer exist. You keep interrupting me, dude. Those slaughterhouses will no longer exist. There'll no longer be a need for them. We'll actually see them as immoral and unethical and horrible. We're trying to instill that mentality. And you're talking about actually physical violence, and we can't go that route, because right now the general population, the mentality is that those animals are there for us. That's the problem. The animals are not here for us. They're here for themselves, and we're here for ourselves, and we're all in this together. And it's about working together, not manipulating and exploiting each other. And that starts on the ground up.
You know what? I am pissed off, because you know what? This comes down to where's the, you want to start a revolution. Where's the solidarity between vegans and vegetarians? And you know what? I see vegans attacking vegetarians like me.
I think that's because you don't understand the harm of dairy and egg industry.
Slaughterhouses. I don't see vegans really doing something to take on the real people. Yet
Did you watch that demonstration that's going on right now in San Francisco? It's incredible. There's over 300 people right now, like doing a speak out, doing this movement, and it's happening everywhere, man. And what? I can't hear you, man.
I said we need to join forces, not squabble among ourselves.
Very, very quickly, very succinctly. Okay, if you're still consuming eggs and dairy, then you don't understand how harmful and how brutal and how unethical the dairy. Let me finish, man. You keep interrupting me.
I don't agree with it. And I think it's
Can I finish my statement?
Eat eggs to the day I die.
You're just going to keep talking. Then you don't know how bad they are for you, and you don't know what chickens are going through, and you don't understand the rape and the artificial insemination and the forced impregnation of the cows, and you don't understand what it's doing to the offspring, and how they're shipped off to the slaughterhouses. They're all shipped off to the same slaughterhouses, man. They all end up
talking to me, a responsible person who buys only organic. And
that means nothing. How does organic imply ethical treatment? What the hell's that mean? All animals, are organic because they're animals. But you can pump them full of hormones and stuff. But organic means nothing when it comes to whether or not you're taking someone's life who doesn't want to die.
It's not. It doesn't come. It comes down to, as you said, the general health of the entire planet. And the general health of the entire planet requires people to take somewhat of a more give and take position, where they can make basic coalitions of people who they generally agree with, and form meaningful unions in order to stop those things that are the most egregious crimes against nature. And I think that it is an egregious crime against nature. And this is where I have a problem, is why don't we agree what is the thing that needs to be outlawed? And you know what? We'll talk about eggs and honey later. But right now, why can't we talk about CAFOs and about pigs that are treated like they're completely,
Because it's all relevant. Because it's all relevant, Peter. Because we're talking about a mindset. We're talking about changing a mindset.
Well, no. But Poffo, Peter makes a good point. In other words, morality, what a lot of people don't understand is morality is about prioritization. There's always the greater of two goods, the lesser of two evils. So if we have to focus on our energies on what are the most egregious crimes.
I'm focusing on just raising awareness and changing the philosophy, the mentality. I'm not out there attacking slaughterhouses, and I'm not out there attacking beekeepers. I'm just trying to raise the consciousness level so that we don't view animals as commodity.
Yeah, I would like to say something here. Yeah,
as fellow beings.
Yeah,
Chandler.
What I want to say is we can't simply go and tear down slaughterhouses, and attack what Peter calls the real people who are causing the harm. Because the point is, the public, because they have this mentality, the animals are there for us to use.
Support it. Demand for it.
Right. So no matter how many slaughterhouses you tear down with your hands, they're just going to rebuild it because they've got billions of dollars because people are buying the meat. So the point
unless you change their minds, unless you change the way they think.
Exactly.
Exactly my point, but my point is that basically people who believe in good farming and vegans could work together against people who believe in factory farming.
Hold on. What's good farming of what? Of animals or crops?
Yes.
How is there ever such a thing as good farming of animals?
You know what?
You're using the animal. When you're using an animal, it's no longer ethical.
My final point. This is my final point. If responsible organic small growers, like local growers, who consume and kill meat and are carnists, but they treat their animals well.
You're not listening to what you're saying. Consume and kill, but treat them well. Consume and kill, but treat them well.
My statement. If vegans can find a means to work with those people, then they will succeed.
Those people don't exist because what you just stated is an oxymoron. That's cognitive dissonance, man. I don't treat someone well and then kill them. That means I am no longer treating them well. I'm completely disregarding them.
The problem is the factory farming and turning everything into some sort of massive product.
You want to move forward? Let's move forward right now. Okay, we all agree that factory farming is evil and wrong, right? Let's not talk about factory farming. Let's talk about the value of life itself. Let's talk about how we view other non-human animals.
Everybody who I'm going to say basically I'm calling it a day because I can't argue with you like this. Basically,
you don't have to argue. I'm trying to have a conversation.
You don't let me finish the statement.
Okay. I feel like I've
I do want to say that it's true that that Poffo did interrupt Peter's statement. He didn't let him finish.
It's hard to hear him too. I'm not sure when he's finished. But go ahead. I'm trying to let him speak.
The real enemy is the factory and industrial farming, and when the enemies of that industry can cooperate and work together, then there will be revolution. And you know what? You want your revolution, Poffo? It's never going to happen. Never. I promise you. Until you're willing, and vegans are willing to work with that group and with me and my group.
The real enemy is not the commoditization of the meat. The real enemy, the real problem is the mentality that we see animals as here for us to use and manipulate as we see fit. That's the real enemy. It's the mentality. That's the Carnist mentality, that some animals are less deserving of life, that some animals are here to serve us, that some animals we treat well and other animals we treat like garbage. That's the real problem.
Okay, okay. Now, I do want to say one thing to Peter. Peter, before you go, I just want you to understand that we are not against you. This is not a personal attack on you. This is an attack on a faulty mindset, a belief system that you have been deceived into believing.
No, I haven't been deceived into believing anything because, first of all, you guys keep on thinking that I am part of the Carnist mindset, and that is wrong, and that's where you're making mistakes.
Yeah, you are pretty much. You are, because you're making justifications and the same excuses and that I hear all the time.
That is absurd, personally, because there's no way you're going to ever stop having a negative impact. And you know what? That vegan farming is.
Can you repeat that last sentence? Because I didn't hear you, man. Can you repeat that sentence again?
Talk about, about.
I can't hear him.
But
you're kind of breaking up.
Can you talk into the mic a little louder?
Who won't. And I don't feel like there's much cooperation with vegans with anybody except for people who believe their very narrow vision, and I don't like that. I think it's hurtful to the cause.
It's narrow to believe that we should do no harm as far as we're able. You think that's narrow-minded?
You're dividing the good guys. You're doing harm by making it so that there's never any progress by dividing the good guys. You're doing a terrible harm to the animals.
I don't think the vegetarians are good or bad. I just think that they may be misinformed. I'm not trying to divide anybody. I mean, the vegan movement is moving forward. Go ahead.
Leave the vegetarians alone and stop focusing on cheese and.
I'm not focusing on. It goes back to the same exact thing, man. I'm trying to.
Yeah, but no, Peter. For example, with eggs, Peter, with eggs, chickens. There's 7 chickens in a cage. 12 by 12. They can't even move their wings.
We gotta stop talking about factory farm. We're all against.
Hold on, Papa. Yeah. Whoa. So Peter, you were responding.
Can you guys hear that bird? I don't know.
Hold on, Papa.
My response is I grew up on a farm.
Peter, the point I made that, all right, so you're saying that we shouldn't have these factory farms for dairy either.
Well, not exactly. No, I think that every type of animal operation needs to be run with a very strict level of hygienic and humane consideration.
Why are there animal operations to begin with if it's unnecessary?
All right, so if you're saying that, hold on, Papa. If you're saying that basically you're agreeing with us that animals have to. The only difference between us and you seem to be actually I may be more on your side because I don't really have a problem with killing them. It's just that that we all agree that they should be treated humanely. And so it's not really a difference between vegetarians and vegans, as I hear it. It's just the difference between people who believe that animals can be killed and those who don't.
And I think that killing takes on different forms. Killing is, first of all, it should be it's not the best thing to do, but it's also, there are different ways to kill, and I'm not agreeing with all of them, and I think that it's...
You've never answered my question. If it's unnecessary and it's unwarranted, that's what makes it unethical.
You're crazy. This whole thing about it unnecessary. When I grew up, I had chickens. I raised them from eggs. I had them in an incubator. They were my pets, and I raised them, and I ate their eggs, and I fed them, and they lived a happy life because I took care of them. And those chickens were big and fat.
Was that necessary? But was it necessary to eat those eggs? Or could you have made tofu? Could you have eaten vegetation?
I need food.
What?
You know what?
Okay, that's the problem, Peter, is that you view animals and animal products as food to begin with. That's
but wait a minute, but the solution is to can't we also just raise is there a technology for just creating the eggs,
George,
test tube eggs?
Why do we want the chicken periods in our bodies and our systems when it's the highest source of cholesterol, when it leads to all these health issues and clogged arteries? I don't think you guys...
Poffo, I agree. You're talking about an ideal world. Peter's talking about what's a bit more pragmatic in terms of politically winning the fight. I think that's where, his point is valid. I mean, it's like there's this expression, the perfect is the enemy of the good. When you want too much too soon, that doesn't work as well.
But at the same time, anyone who's ever made a difference or changed the world has had what people would call extreme values, extreme ideals. It's only extreme because you're not familiar with it. It's only extreme because it goes against mainstream culture.
Yeah, and see, I have to say...
let's just blow up the planet. That'll solve everything.
Hey, can we agree on that, guys?
Some anti-natalists might agree with you when it comes to that.
Hey, maybe that's how we change the world. We just blow the whole thing up.
That's what Trick says, right? Isn't that Trick's solution? He says that?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Might as well just...
Train or Icebreaker or whatever.
What?
That movie Icebreaker or whatever, or what is it? The train. It's going through all the ice. Snowbreaker.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Okay. The point is that everybody at the back of the train is eating this stuff that comes in these cubes of brown. It's like brown shit that they're eating. Okay. We could all live on Soylent Green or some other thing that's made that doesn't kill any animals, any organisms. It's made from bacteria. We could eat something that's basically it tastes like a flavorless paste. And we don't eat because we have to. We eat them because there's a variety that nature produces.
There are 70,000 edible plants, edible vegetables that we can eat.
Yes,
and that's the bounty. That's the real variety. That's what our physiology actually calls for, Peter. We're herbivores, man. Our biology screams that we're herbivores.
That's 100% true. That's not scientifically true.
Actually, it is. I'm not sure where you're getting your information from.
I'll have to agree. I think we are herbivores, even though we don't act like it.
No, we're omnivores by choice, but we're absolutely 100% herbivores. We have no carnivorous instincts whatsoever. That's actually programmed.
That's why I say we don't act like it.
Evolve. Yeah. I really think you're misinformed, Peter, and I just think it comes down to, again, like a lack of
say that we have no
education.
And yet you claim the entire planet is taken over by carnists. It's not just an intellectual pursuit.
I think that carnism is a philosophy that a mentality that's bred into our culture. Yeah, it's passed down.
Okay, let me also explain this. I had my sister. She had rheumatoid arthritis. She was in a wheelchair. She was very, very sick for many years. And it's not that it actually helped her to become a vegan. She became a vegan. She became organic. She got off of all this crap, and she ended up actually having a total reversion away from her disease. So she's not sick anymore because she gave up a lot of bad food for her, and she gave up meat. Now,
WSD.
She had to have her knee replaced. This is a quick story. I'll be done soon.
No. It was just WSD.
She's a vegan, so her knee is replaced, and then after she was recovering, she started having this anemia crash, and so we gave her as much as we could. We gave her these supplements, we gave her so on and so forth, and she said from her doctor, she's like, I haven't eaten meat for all this time, but I just keep on visualizing this steak, I need a steak. And you know what? We got her an organic steak and brought it to her, and she ate that, and she sprang back to life in no fucking time. And you know
Remember
what?
the placebo effect we were going to talk about? There you go, placebo effect.
About the fact that basically it's not that she believes in it, that she's against veganism. It's that her body needs some of that additional.
That's completely false. It's completely been dispelled. It
could be psychosomatic. I mean, Poffo's point is it could be psychosomatic. It could be like her.
I think it's 100% psychosomatic based on what you just said about her cravings for it. Yeah.
It's about the fact that she was at the near a point of being unconscious. She was extremely unhealthy, and it helped bring her health back. The color came back to her face right away. And
there are legumes and beans that hold more iron than a 10-ounce steak, Peter. Like you're really uninformed when it comes to this.
She had the need to keep her body healthy, and you know what? She wanted to be a vegan, and she couldn't. That's the story of so many people I talk to. So many people who come to my site, and they say, you know what? I tried to be a vegan, and it wasn't just that I pussed out or something like that. It's that my body I couldn't get healthy enough. And you know what? Solve that problem for them, not for me.
You're literally talking about anecdotal stories of people whose perceptions have already been skewed by a lifetime of carnism and indoctrination of cultural conditioning, and that's your evidence, man. Why don't you look into the actual medical the history, look into the China study, and look at the research and the work, man, instead of just letting these stories reinforce what you already believe.
What matters? My sister is living and feeling okay today. And you know what? If she has a steak every once in a while, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference to me. It doesn't change the fact that she's got a heart of gold and that she loves animals and she loves her dog more than I've ever seen anybody love a dog, and that dog loves her.
Obviously, she doesn't love all animals, and obviously she loves herself more in those specific situations.
I'm sorry. What you say right there is a judgment that you don't have a right to say.
I'm saying it, dude. I'm saying it. If there's no need for it, if there is no biological need for it, then to act otherwise is unethical, and it's an injustice. This is a social justice movement, man. The problem is that we're not viewing animals as persons with rights and freedoms just like the rest of us. That's the problem. That's what needs to change.
I think you want evolution. How do you get past this issue?
You need to watch some documentaries and do a little more research. That's how you'll get past it. It's not really an issue to those who are well informed.
So many more documentaries than you, Poffo. You have no idea.
Have you ever seen What the Health? Have you watched What the Health yet?
I do remember telling you about Cowspiracy.
I know. I can send you the link right now when we get off for What the Health. And if you promise me that you'll watch it, it would change your whole mentality like instantly. But you're probably not going to watch it because you're set in your own ways. You're set in your beliefs.
I watch everything. Yeah. I watch everything. That's all I do. It's coming out of my ear.
Did you watch Earthlings yet? I asked you to watch Earthlings a long time ago. I can't hear you, man. What? You're muffled.
I said yes. I've watched it so many times.
You've watched Earthlings so many times?
Yes, at least 3.
I mean, I can't even watch it, on repetition like that. But
it took me days to get through it.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult. But dude, all the stuff I talked about before we got into all this is exactly what's going on right now. Peter has been exposed to certain types of information. I've been exposed to certain types of information, and what really matters is what's reality, what's the truth. So I'm not disagreeing with Peter. I'm disagreeing with what Peter has learned and what he's been exposed to, and the conclusions that he's come to are based on his experiences and that information. That's all I'm saying. So I'm using the whole free will thing, saying it's not him, it's his environment that's contributed to his misunderstanding. We'll put it that way.
You have a field of corn. Okay, say you're in Egypt and you have a field of corn, and now a giant thing of locusts. Now, maybe they're not locusts. Something more. You guys are all vegan, so just imagine locusts.
We're not all vegan. We're actually not all vegan. I actually differ on some issues when it comes to George's veganism. And I don't think WSD is a vegan, but he understands the philosophy. Yeah. So we're not all vegan. I think Chandler and I agree. We're the only ones that actually 100% agree.
Yeah.
Wait, what are you talking about? What's my veganism?
Your idea that some animals, it's okay to kill some animals as long as they're as long as they're not in a great amount of pain, as long as they've lived a happy life, so to speak, to kill them quick.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, okay. I say that pragmatically, but the ideal, if we didn't have to kill any at all, that'd be the best.
But my veganism is based on the ideal that it's unnecessary and it's unethical. That's the point. Your philosophy also revolves around the idea of everything that everyone does is about seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because within that comes the thing, as long as they've experienced enough pleasure, then it's okay, it's ethical, because they're not, maybe 5 minutes of pain is okay because they've experienced a lifetime of pleasure. And I'm going deeper with the principle of it, the value of life in general, the value of the life to the individual itself, not just to their experience.
No, Poffo, again, the ideal that I hold is that we shouldn't eat them at all. But again, pragmatically, if we can convince enough people to just treat them kindly, that'd be a major step forward.
That's where
But if we're still manipulating and exploiting them, then we're not really treating them kindly. That's the point. You're not actually teaching kindness. You're teaching a form of rationalization, a justification.
Poffo, how the hell do you expect that to ever? I mean, you're going to have vegans who will do what you're saying, which is fine. But how does your message even come across? As far as I'm concerned, the most important message that's going to ever matter to the meat industry is to say, look, if you must eat meat, you cannot. I mean, in other words, if you must, and they claim they must, and that's not something that we're going to stop. They have the law on their side. If they claim they must, then we must say they must not be unnecessarily cruel. And that there must
sanctions and certain laws for animal welfare is not the goal of veganism. The fact that there is a meat industry, the fact that there's a thing called a slaughterhouse, that's the problem to begin with. That's the problem. There doesn't need to be a meat industry. That's the point.
Right.
You're losing an opportunity to reach out. And what I'm saying is somebody like Temple Grandin has done so much to help many animals' lives on the ground.
Wait. That woman that's autistic?
Yes, I know who she is.
Oh, fuck her, man. Are you serious? Come on.
Of course. See, this is the problem. As long as you vegans are going to say that Temple
that's Poffo, she has done so much to make the life more humane for those animals. She has. You can't discount that.
No, I think that what she's actually done is created exactly this form of rationalization. It's allowed for this kind of justification. That's the problem. It's even more dangerous because she's mixing lies with truth. She's doing some good, and yet she's still missing the greater point of completely devaluing these organisms. That's the problem.
Well,
it's done more damage.
Okay, here's my view. Now, I could be totally wrong on this, so don't quote me on this. But here's what I'm thinking right now. There are people like Temple Grandin, and I believe many other people, who simply do not believe that people will change to all become vegan. They simply don't think that people will be convinced. Yeah, and so what they're trying to say is that we should make small incremental changes to at least make those animals who are going to be killed anyway suffer less. And I understand that. And I'm all for anything that does reduce the suffering of the animals that are going to be slaughtered. But Poffo and I, all we're saying is that none of it is literally necessary. None of it's necessary.
You know what irks me? It's a form of compromise. That's the point. It's fundamentally demolishing the ideal and exchanging it, in lieu of a compromise. And I don't believe in that. We should be uncompromising.
But Poffo, are you saying that we shouldn't? So those ideas that she came up with, are you saying we shouldn't be doing them because they're not the ideal?
No, I'm.
Because if you're saying that,
no, I can't stop her. I can't stop her.
But are you saying? But are you saying it's more ethical to not institute those humane changes that she developed? Because if you're saying that, you're basically condoning the greater suffering of these animals.
I think that fundamentally it's not humane, and it becomes a very deceptive lie. It becomes a form of compromise.
So she has done something. She hasn't solved the whole problem, but she's done something good.
What she's actually done is perpetuated the actual problem.
Well,
Give her book,
no, you can't blame that on her. You can't blame that. I'm sorry.
No, I don't blame it on her. I blame it on her indoctrination. I blame it on her programming.
Well, yeah. See, here's the deal. What this is like. Okay, I understand.
Autistic who neurologically bonded with animals and sees from their point of view. Okay, she's got a neurological aberration that allows her to understand and work with animals in ways that are she's like an animal whisperer when she's.
But
with
the end result is to cull them and kill them and harvest them unnecessarily.
But the end result is they suffer less. They suffer less. That's the thing. You can't
suffering
discount
less.
that.
And
she's
suffering,
doing good. She's not doing everything, but
okay. The message, the point of veganism, the ethical position. It's a social justice movement. Okay, it's not about animal welfare. It's about animal liberation. It's about the abolishment of using animals for anything because there is no need for it. And I keep stressing this.
We understand, Poffo,
Peter
we
gets
get that.
There
But
really
the
is no
thing
need.
is, like, if to the extent
I'm just
to the
making that
extent that we
distinction.
haven't solved that, Poffo, to the extent we haven't solved that,
And we keep pushing.
you or
and we keep
someone
pushing.
else, hold it, come
Yeah.
on, Poffo, come on, stop.
I'm
To the
answering.
extent-
That's all.
Stop. No, stop. To the extent that somebody does something, it may not be the entire thing, but somebody does something to alleviate that suffering. I'm sorry. You cannot blame them for not solving the whole problem. You can't say that it's not a good thing. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not blaming her. I'm not blaming her. I said that she is responsible for perpetuating it in a very deceptive way.
She's not responsible. No, she's not. She's not because her the
George,
system
her-
would go on
her
just the way it's
message,
going.
let's say her message is responsible. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, her message
what
is
she's
not
done-
responsible. The system would go on the way it's going, except more cruel if she didn't do the work she did.
The system will go the way that it goes until the mindset of the populace changes. That's what we're trying to do, is change the mindset, period.
Poffo.
But you're discounting her work, man. I mean, come on, like any little bit that
I'm actually
lessens
not,
their
I'm not,
suffering
I'm not
is
counting
good.
it I'm not counting it or discounting it. I'm saying that it represents a compromise. So that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I want to respond. You have all made some very good points, I actually think. But so here's what I want to say about Temple Grandin. I am glad that Temple Grandin did what she did to reduce some of the suffering of these animals who are going to be slaughtered. But like Poffo, I also agree that it's not necessary in the first place. And so there is a problem when people promote this idea that you can humanely kill somebody or humanely rape somebody. This idea, I'm going to hurt you in a nice way. I mean, it's just so bizarre, so twisted, and I want to of that mindset entirely.
It's rationalization.
Chandler, that's a good point. That's a good point, but that doesn't discount the good she's done.
Right.
WSD wants to say something.
Yeah, it's just that. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to get through, but you gotta take your time with people, because people, if you force it upon them, they're not gonna listen.
Well, nobody's forcing anything on anybody,
Yeah.
but the ethical stance, it stands. It's a position, it's a mindset, it's a philosophy that should be uncompromising. And then those who recognize it will get on board, and those who don't will continue down their path. You can't force veganism on anybody. You can't.
Yeah. That's why we'll educate them first.
Okay, guys. Okay, hold on, guys. Just to be clear, I never, ever meant to say anything that discounted the work of Temple Grandin, and I don't think Poffo did either. I don't think Poffo or I are discounting that she did some good. But here's what I'm saying. Now, let's compare this to the 2016 election we had in this country. Let's compare it to politics for an analogy, if you don't mind here. Okay, so now some of you guys were all saying, we should go for the lesser of two evils. We should go for Hillary rather than Trump because Hillary's better than Trump. But see, for certain people like Poffo or I or WSD, that's not good enough. It's not good enough to compromise and always try to shoot for the lower evil. I say we should be shooting for the target rather than another tree somewhere else.
Agreed. I completely agree, and that's why I boycott politics.
But there's
voting.
this expression: sometimes the perfect is the enemy of the good. Sometimes,
and that's
when
just
you
an
ask
expression,
for too
George.
much,
So
it's an expression,
George,
but
it's just an
there's a
expression.
principle behind it.
Yeah, and
It's
George,
not just an expression. It's like, for example, like you're kind of like saying, well, like somebody's got an illness, okay, and I'm sorry if you can't save the person's life, then it just doesn't make sense to prolong it 10, 15 years. You got to save it for so that the person lives like 50 years. And so this is an example of the ideal, being the enemy of the good, which is like if you can save a person's life for 15 years, that's much better than than like just saying, oh, no, I can't save the person for 40 years. Might as well let him die.
I think you're making my point for me right now, George, because we're talking about the value of life. What we really need to discuss is how Peter and others view non-human animals. Like, do we see them as persons, as individuals, or do we see them as commodities?
A way I can explain it to you is the way that we both have come to understand consciousness. Is that consciousness is not the same in every person, and it's not the same in every animal. And that doesn't reduce the value of the consciousness in every single thing. But what an animal experiences and how an animal experiences contentment and how it experiences an exchange, a valid exchange of benefits with humans, these are different relationships that we have. We will have a different relationship with a dog than we have with a cow, than we have with a tiger.
Actually, you can have cows, and they're very smart and intelligent, and I really don't think you've spent enough time studying animal psychology and animal behavior, because like you're making these distinctions, and they really don't exist except in the mind of the person who's using the animal.
Yeah, I'm saying that really not all animals interact with us in the same way. We have a wide variety of many relationships, and all of those relationships deserve to be on their own terms. And I do think that you could get higher animals such as pork and pigs, or not pork, but pigs, and say that they're not.
Wow. If that's not a Freudian slip, I don't know what is, man. That euphemism it explains it all right there.
No, it's not a Freudian slip because I'm not defending pork. I'm saying
there is no such thing as pork. There's no such thing as beef. There's only dead cow flesh and dead pig flesh, and we tell ourselves these things, and we distance ourselves from the real source of our protein, which is another life form that didn't have to die.
My point being is I don't see that pigs are what we should consider meat, but I can't change the way the world and the way.
Absolutely not. You can change it if you change, and if you can join with this movement, if you can understand that the movement is actually 100% on board with the fundamental premise is compassion. It's ahimsa. It's love and respect for life.
This is my problem.
Whether you agree with the methodology or not, I mean, I'm talking about the philosophy itself. What?
They're not watching, but vegans aren't listening. They're not listening. You're not listening. And I think
I'm not listening, dude. I every time you speak, I'm trying to hear you. I'm asking you to speak up. I'm listening.
I'm saying that I feel like this group in this conversation seems to me to have at least agreed that although Temple Grandin does not represent the perfect solution for everybody who wishes a world free of suffering, she at least is moving the ball forward. And that is where, if you want to change the world, you will find people it's
almost like you're saying it's impossible to be vegan. It's almost like you're saying that people will never can't just do it. They can't just give it up.
I don't think he's saying that at all. I think it's impossible to get
what, WSD?
To be vegan.
So, say it again, WSD.
I think he's saying it's hard to convince everybody else to be vegan. But
his mentality is almost like saying it's an impossible goal.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Look, guys. I have considered before that maybe it is an impossible goal, and it's quite possible that maybe we will never be able to convince the rest of the world to go vegan. That's a high possibility that will never work. But that changes. But
the ones we won't convince will die out of meat-related diseases, so we won't have a problem with it.
Well, here's the deal. Right, but let me finish my point here, Poffo. The point is, even if we never convince the rest of the world to be vegan, that's not the point. That personally changes nothing for me, because I want to live and be the change that I wish to see in the world, whether or not it actually happens.
I agree, and I kind of wanted to make that point earlier when Peter was talking, that, you know what, I don't actually even I don't care if
George
you
is
think
last.
this is he said he was leaving. I don't care if you think this is an impossible goal. If it's a goal that I can achieve, and if it's a goal that I can influence others to achieve, which I do every single weekend, every week, every day online, I'm literally influencing and converting like hundreds of people. So Peter doesn't see that. He doesn't actually see the progress that's being made. He might be exposed to other negative aspects of the movement, but I'm seeing it, and I know that it's 100% plausible and possible and practical, and it's the most practical thing that we can do right now.
Yeah,
it is actually the most practical, the most logical and sensible thing to do in terms of health, in terms of the environment, and in terms of our ethical evolution as a species.
I have to get going myself. That's seriously my last statement. Poffo, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the fact that what you want to do is change as much as you can. And Chandler, I don't disagree with that. The fact that you have the responsibility about your life, and that's all you can basically vouch for. But one thing I do disagree about is that if you cannot convert somebody to veganism, but you can change their habits or open their mind, that you have made an important change in the world simply by getting people to expand some of their thinking, and that basically if they personally, incrementally move forward, that's an important step because that's as far as they can or will go. And last point is, if you want to stop the most egregious crimes, we'll work with those with whom you have small and settleable differences so that you can attack those who you cannot ever reconcile yourself with, can never even negotiate with, and focus on those. Then there's going to be a successful revolution. But as long as we can't kind of agree that some things, some compromises are, I'm not saying to compromise yourself. I'm saying that compromised relationships only for the means of cooperation are always beneficial. And as long as you disagree with that, then you're just hampering your own cause. And that
sounds very reasonable and politically correct and practical. But there are many points that you just made that I disagree with, and I think it stems from a lack of knowledge about the issues.
I'm against divisiveness, but okay.
And I'm so sorry, Peter, if we've stressed you out and and you felt like you were being attacked, because that was not my intention at all.
Okay. Yeah, and it's time for me to go, guys, and I've been trying to get your attention for a while now. Because it's actually like my bedtime. So here's the thing. Now, I know exactly what I want to say here because we are not done with this topic. It's going to come up again in the future. I highly doubt whether Peter will ever join us again. He's probably sick of us by now. But this was a very important talk, and people made some very excellent points. And I agree, Peter, that we should get each person to go as far as they will go at reducing animal suffering. I have always agreed to this. Just to make it clear, I've never disagreed with that. But at the same time, I will always be pointing them in the direction of the perfect, of the ideal. And I believe that is a good note to end it on for this episode. And we will probably continue this in a future episode at some point because this is a very powerful discussion. As for now, thank you to all of our listeners, and I hope you enjoyed. Good night, everybody.
Stay safe. Yeah!